Yeah, let's try. Let's start, I guess.
Okay,
Wow. Don't mind me. I'm already having drinks, so it's only going to get better as longer as the evening goes on.
nice.
Yeah, welcome everybody to Bring Your Own Dragon, meaning bring yourself. First edition, first try. We're just gonna make it happen and see if this even works out. So what I basically tried or want to try with this is set up a bunch of questions that are already in the event details, and then hope that we as a community can fill up a panel. So that way you don't have to worry about, oh, I've got to fill up an hour, I have to talk this much. We can just, just chat, have a good time together, which we already do outside of panels, but might as well plan it in, I guess. Something like that. If you don't want to talk in voice chat, you can just talk in the chat. I have 4 questions for each Bring Your Own Dragon. I will put them in the chat. Don't worry. And, well, I have a few more in store for you all that you will laugh about, have a good time about, but those will have to wait. So this is the Awakening and Self-Discovery Bring Your Own Dragon. And to kick it off, the first question is, when and how did you awaken? Now, we already talked about this earlier on in a different panel. Hello. Hello here. I'm also here. And, well, I did cover it a bit already in a different panel, but I'm just going to go over it in a short rundown, more or less. So I awakened in 2005. I was not asking for it, but more or less suddenly got thrown into it. First was Tsakizilim, which was a Arctic dragon, which turned out to be my concurrent life. I did not know at the time that it was pretty abnormal to have meditational or astral traveling each night, or more or less about each night. For the first time, Rayalot. Rayalot? Did I pronounce that right? So I didn't know that astral traveling was not something everybody experienced, and I did not even know that it was a concurrent life at all at that time. So I spent a few years astral traveling just about every night, and it completely ruined my life, more or less, because astral traveling does not replace sleep, people. Please do not try it. And at a certain moment, another dragon started showing up in dreams, meditations, the astral world. A small black dragoness. The one we all know and love right now, that is Akir, which is how I identify nowadays. It only took me another year or so to figure out and realize that Akir was actually my soul, so to say, and that Tsakizilim was the concurrent life, and thus well, back then in 2005, I used to say it was a case of a split soul. I'm not sure if that's still true, but for the sake of simplicity, I still stick to that because I'm not sure what other term to put to it. And, well, a few years on, more or less more about Akir, I figured out more, got memories, remembered a few different past lives actually. So the dragon one is actually my most recent past life, but there's one before that I actually remember, which was, I want to say it was on Earth, but I'm not sure if it was on Earth. It might have been an alternative reality or something like that, but the time period that I was alive back then was around the Persian era. So in those deserts around Babylon, I was sort of like a reptilian, draconic-like creature, no wings. But I don't have a lot of memories from that life. There's a few where I also think that I might have been able to shapeshift into a human or humanoid-like being. But aside from that, not a lot has been changing around. Since I have stepped out at a certain time to focus on myself or try to focus on myself. But you can't escape yourself, and eventually you find your way back into the Otterkin or Dragonkin community. And I am grateful that I got welcomed with open wings. And it's been almost 3 years already. Wow, time's flying by. Since I've came back into the community, and since then I've been really focusing on a lot of stuff for my dragon life. I've been figuring out different memories. I've been trying to tie together loose memories, trying to make it chronological. And I'm still working on that. I've since set up a website to, more or less write them all down and put them down in a place where everybody can access it. So, in case something happens to this body, the stories are still there about me, and hopefully inspire others to do the same. Yeah. Backheel is here.
Yeah.
The Great One has joined. I mean, Draconity FAQ has been a really big help for me back then, because when I awakened, I think the first word that I looked for, or the first word that I found, wasn't even otherkin, it was transspecies. That was still a thing back then. And that Draconity FAQ really helped me out trying to figure out what was going on and what was happening. So I talked way too much already. Who else wants to have a go?
It's all good. I appreciate your in-depth responses.
And that's just question number 1.
Wow. I talked about this in my other panel, though my awakening is very interesting. It's very hard to properly explain in words. Anything before 2020, before my awakening as Lunat, I don't consider my memories. I consider them the memories of the human soul. I remember when the human soul was just a human with neurodivergent symptoms and adopting animal traits as a sign of neurodivergency. Maybe there was something spiritual going on, though I don't know. I chalk it up to neurodivergency, though. In 2020, a complete shift in my psychology, in everything happened. My non-human consciousness awakened, essentially, and I recognized myself as Lunat. I started to feel draconic. I started to really embrace my draconity, and I don't know. There was a really interesting shift in my entire personality. I really don't know how to explain it. It was a really surreal experience. And ever since, I've been struggling with my schizoaffective disorder, false beliefs, and over time, I've been able to pinpoint some solidified aspects of my draconity, things that I absolutely know are true. It took my being a while to accept that I was not Lunat herself, or that Lunat herself was not. Well, hold on. Lunat is peering through this human body, though there's more to her peering through this human body than I thought. I did not accept myself as the fragment of Lunat, as the lycodraconic werewolf Nurok, until early 2023, and it was actually a bit of a painful realization, though I eventually came to accept it. Just being like, well, I may not be this amazing celestial being, though I'm connected to her. I suppose that's good enough. And ever since, I've just been going through the motions, connecting with my indigenous human culture and combining my draconity with aspects of said indigenous human culture and just going through the motions, really.
Yeah, it's an ever-changing, or rather an ever-growing journey to discover oneself. And
Oh, yeah,
you
absolutely.
you think you're done, and then something else comes up.
Yep, I would say so. Wonderlight, did you want to say something before I rambled?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Go
So,
for it.
I would consider my discovery to be kind of voluntary. I'll first tell you the kind of process that I went through. As a kid, I kind of always wanted to believe in magic. I wanted to believe in like all of these stories that I was reading. But kinda as I grew up, I realized that magic was well, now I know better. Now that I know magic is magic is very much real, but kind of growing up in an agnostic household, I kind of developed agnostic atheist like beliefs, and then I just decided, oh wait, I can just want to believe. I can just choose that I am Xylia. I can just choose that I am this magical being. And I think the one thing that really helped me make this choice is this word that I came up with in that I actually talked about a little on the server in, let me see if I remember the date, August 2023, called Alter Reality. I posted an entire essay about it on the server. It is pretty much my main hyperfixation currently, but kind of long story short, it is I'll just say the definition. I'm just going to read the essay right here. Alter reality is a process of creating one unique sense of reality via imagination and belief. It can be described as a lifestyle or a philosophy with one central idea. What makes something real is nothing but the belief that it is real. So, yeah, that's kind of how I came to be that I am today, and I'm very happy about it. If anyone has any questions about anything, please let me know.
Thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome.
Yee.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. Who else wants to have a go?
Song Step wants to speak. There you go.
Yee.
I'm muted. Okay, I'm not muted anymore. Hello, Peoples is. Well, I guess technically, Peoples is wouldn't apply to like most of you. Sorry, this is my default. So buckle up because this is going to be a bit of a long one. So it's funny because everyone's always everyone's talking about like, oh, like this specific moment when you awaken. It's funny because I cannot remember when it started. Like I think like when I was younger, I didn't really think about my body that much at all. It's actually funny because I can remember like as early as maybe being like 6 or 7 and like have like reading like I think my bobcat stereotype, I was aware of that one first because I can remember being as like young as 6 or 7 and reading a book about cats and like seeing stuff like oh, cats have no collarbones and cats have this number of vertebrae whatever in their spine and being like and comparing that to like my own features and being like, why do I have collarbones? Why does my spine not why and just having like just feeling that disconnect, like why is this book about me but not about me? But then I think the dragon bit, I don't remember when I started feeling like a dragon, like truly like a dragon. But I think the moment I started to first become aware of it was I got really into sci-fi books. And one of the books had a scene where a character was like living in a virtual digital space, and like it was their first time in a virtual digital space, and they were like trying to like build a body for themselves so they could talk, and they were like imagining a bunch of bodies for themselves, and then the person was like, the other person there who had like was experienced with digital space was like, well, imagine what having a body feels, concentrate on what having a body feels like. And in my brain I was like, damn, I wish I were there so that I could like, I don't know, concentrate on what having a dragon body feels like, and then have a dragon body in that digital virtual world. And there were some other books that were a little bit like that, that like really like impacted me like that. And I think that was the first time that like I was like really being like, oh, this is something that I want to be. This is something, a desire that I've had. And I had no idea. And then right around when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11, I was on Scratch programming. I was very active in the roleplay communities, mostly dragon roleplay communities, because, you know, at that time I was just like, oh, my head was like, oh, I'm just obsessed with dragons. And then, by chance, I clicked on this project that was titled This Is Me, because I was a Greatest Showman fan at the time, and I was like, ooh, Greatest Showman? But no, it wasn't. It was someone being like, I am a Therian, and it had like this picture of like a really badly drawn wolf, and it's like, I am a something something wolf named Fireheart or whatever. And then in the description, it was like, post like your stereotype or whatever, like post what you are in the comments. And me, having no idea what the word Therian or Otherkin or any of that meant, went into that comment section and was like, I'm a dragon. And then some other person who actually knew what they were talking about came up and was like, really, like, how'd you know? And I'm like, I guess it's something, and they like explained to me what Therian actually meant, and I'm like, wait, you can do that? That's real? I can be that? And so then they basically linked me some resources, and the rest is history. And I first found like my proper Therian community on the Pause for Cringe Amino. But it was actually really great being in that community because, like, I don't know, it was a lot of time it was somewhat insulated from all of the, like, the really drama type stuff, which I'm really glad that I didn't get like super involved in all that thing. And most of it was just people like posting like, oh, tips and ideas for like gear, dens, whatever things. And I'm just like, I think it was a pretty decent introduction. And then, I don't know. And I was like, the other funny thing about my awakening is that for the longest time, when I first like discovered the Therian community and was like that, one of the first things I was like, wait, I can't be a dragon. That's too obvious. I must be like something else. So I spent like over a year just questioning literally everything but being a dragon. Like I was like, oh, I must be a goat. I must be an egret. I must be an eagle. I must be like a tree or something. And it was just like one of these things. And then I just had this moment of like, wait, I'm literally just a dragon. What the hell? And then I was like, okay, I'm a lot happier with this now. It took me a little longer to figure out the body plan, but yeah, no, that's where I've been. That's my story.
Thank you. That's really interesting. I love it. Really cool. Who else wants to have a go? We're only at the first question. We're already 20 minutes in. I don't think we're going to make it. Oh, yeah. Okura. Hey.
Me. Hello. It's, I feel like you guys are going to hear a lot of me throughout all this. I tend to worm my way into these. My awakening is, I guess, not as interesting as many other stories, but I like to say it sometimes, just, you know, to add a different perspective on things. So, much to my chagrin and shame, my awakening actually, for lack of better words, technically started out within the furry community, where my persona was a winged wolf. No, but I was feeling it a little bit too much, and this was kind of something that I put aside. I mean, I guess we need to go a bit further back. Basically, for my entire life, I definitely had a non-human sensation going on, definitely felt phantom limbs coming and going, but it wasn't anything particularly strong. Around the time I joined the furry fandom, I was kind of early to mid puberty, and that's when the phantom sensations increased. That's when mental shifts got a bit more intense, and it became something I couldn't necessarily ignore. Anyway, due to events I won't disclose here, the furry fandom wasn't exactly for me, but it led me on a bit of a self-search. I eventually found the term otherkin. I did some more reading into it. Then I did some more internal reflection, and I eventually saw a dragon somehow. And from there, gradually, piece by piece, sorted out the Arctic feathered equation. And then, from there, sorted out that I was relatively small and scrawny compared to the vast majority of my peers. Which sadly at first was like a point of contention for me. I was like, this can't be all I am. But then, upon further reflection, I was like, I am this. This is in some kind of, this is funny in some kind of ironic way. I wish I had more to say, but honestly, most of my, like, the rest of my awakening / kin stuff has been community involvement, which is probably not the topic of this panel. With that, I shall take my leave.
Understandable. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Maybe we should have like a timer for when people speak.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see how far we get.
Up to you.
Aurora, you have the stage.
Okay. So we're on the first question. Talking about when our awakening was. And for me, it was during my... I forget exactly what year it was. I'm doing math in my head. Let's see. So it was about 20 years ago almost. I would say closer to 18 years ago. So basically, I just become a teen. I remember reading a story about like coming of age stories and stuff like that, and that was around the time that my awakening happened. I was going to bed one night. We had just watched Dragonheart the day before, I remember, and that's when I thought I saw a dragon in the window. Not physically, but like spiritually. There was an ethereal dragon staring at me through the window. Nobody else noticed. I tried to ignore it, thought it was just my imagination, and then the next night the dragon showed up in my room. And I remember it walked up to me, it put a paw on me, or, well, I couldn't really see what it was exactly, but it basically put its weight on me, stuck me on my bed, and then it triggered my first mental and phantom shift that I ever had, and happened all at once. It was, there are other questions where I can go more into that, but basically that was when I first, when I had my awakening. So I think I give the floor to someone else now.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. Well, I think we might as well move on to the next one. And maybe you can answer that one as well, straight away. So the next question is, was there a specific event, dream, or feeling after awakening that cemented your realization of being a dragon? Aurora?
Man, I didn't think I'd ever have a chance to speak again. No, I'm just messing around. So the thing about the feeling. So, I guess that kind of ties in with number one a little bit, but I can go a little bit more into detail about that. the event that happened in my room caused a mental and phantom shift where I had the inexplicable feeling of turning into a dragon, like right there in my bed. It wasn't physical, it was just mental and phantom. And while there was no clear image at all whatsoever, I couldn't deny the feelings I had. Well, after that night, that became a regular occurrence on a nightly basis. And I could definitely tell you, just like with the astral travel issue, shifting at night with little control robs you of sleep. But after a while of that, I had to, I didn't really have a choice. There was something very dragon about me, and I started. I could save that for the next question, actually. So that is what cemented my realization, was that it became a regular occurrence after that.
Yeah. I think a lot of dragons in here can relate to that. For me, personally, to just throw in my own question right now, is the moment that I awakened, that being thrown back into those astral travels all the time to my concurrent life, really set that yearning in my body of wanting back to it, having that freedom, despite the life that my concurrent life was living. Being able to be a dragon really set it for me that I no longer can live without this anymore. That there's just no way going back after this. Who else? Who else wants to have a go? Blue.
All right, is this thing on? I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my awakening was more of a process rather than like one event that kind of happened. So in 2020, I kind of take that usually as my starting year, even though in reality it's much harder to really pin down. That's when I kind of joined the community, and I also made a really good friend who kind of became my guide kind of throughout this process. But we had a bit of a falling out, and at first that was really hard. And I also had this idea, like, you know, is this really me, or was this all this time just someone else telling me what I was? You know, that's kind of the issue when you have like someone guiding you through the experience. Like, you don't want those two feelings, opinions, and visions kind of intermingled with yours. But kind of with this falling out came a set of two visions. One vision in which I basically got to see all the people I met, and everyone was kind of abstract, but the better I knew them, the more abstract they were. And the really funny thing was that I myself was abstract as well, meaning that I didn't know myself entirely yet either. I mean, that's what I like to think that vision was implying. In the second vision, I actually got to be myself, actually. And that was the very first experience for me, just flying over landscape. And what made these visions really special was they were very much unlike dreams, where dreams can be kind of vague. And I also had these visions involuntarily. Like, normally you kind of have experiences because you really want to have them, and that also makes it tricky, because how do you know things are genuine? But at that time I really didn't want to have them, but they just happened. But I think those really cemented my dragon identity of my own, and I'm very happy I've had them.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, thank you, Blue. Nice. It's nice. I see Wonderlight joining.
Alcura, did you want to speak?
Well, I'm at my desk now. I wanted to quickly, actually, just for the context of a couple of people who may have just joined, Akira, could you please repeat the question in short form?
Sure. So, was there a specific event, dream, or feeling after awakening that cemented your realization of being a dragon? So, basically,
right.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I also wanted to ask to make sure that I heard it correctly the first time. I would like to go briefly into, I guess, not what cemented the Draconic, but what verified it as true for me. So, this is actually the first time I'm mentioning this, but throughout my entire process of, I guess you could call it awakening, the whole self-questioning thing, I always had room for doubt. As in, like, I always had this sort of feeling of, this could just be my mind overplaying things. This could just, this could just be the product of a psychotically, overproductive imagination. But one night, I had, whilst pretty deep in self introspection, I had quite a dizzy spell, and the name Alcura kept coming to me over and over again. The dizziness was that stereotypical dramatic kind that, you see like somebody get when they have like a sudden life-changing realization fall upon them. That was the moment that I realized that my Draconicity is more than just an overactive imagination. It is, in fact, a major part of who I am. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I see. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wonderlight, do you have a reply?
Oh, yes, I do. The funny thing about me is the thing that I want to say is that I didn't really have. I was kind of waiting for an awakening or a big event to happen to me until I kind of realized that no, I don't need that. I could just want to be this. I could just choose to be this, and then I am that. I don't need. And it's super cool that all of you are having these really cool experiences. I am kind of jealous, if I'm being honest. But also, kind of me awakening into my true self, and which I guess I'm still in the process of doing, is realizing that I don't need this big awakening, this big event to happen,
If I can reply, when I had these visions of my own, it was really nice to see myself and be myself and such. But what I also realized was I absolutely gained nothing, because what I saw and what I was literally already the thing that I already felt like being all this time. So even though it was a really nice thing to have, what this really taught me was that I should just kind of trust my feelings more. Because it's all right just to have the feeling. You don't need anything grand to really know. So hearing you say that, I can understand being jealous, but actually having something like that happen to myself, it just made me realize those feelings are what makes you a dragon, and not so much just having such a grandiose thing happen to you.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah. Time-wise, I'm going to push on ahead to the next question, which kind of ties into this one. I think most of us have already talked about it, but I'm just gonna post it anyway. How did you react when you first discovered your Draconity, or when you first discovered that you're a dragon? If you always felt like one when that realization, when that got confirmed, was it empowering, confusing, or something else? For me personally, it was a lot of confusion at the time, even hatred. Like, why me? Why did this happen to me? I never asked for it at the beginning. Well, we're about 20 years later now, and I'm really happy that I did. But yeah, it's an evolving process. We already said so. It never ends. I think this is something that will move on as we all go through life and keep exploring ourselves and keep finding out new things that, yes, at the beginning we might be angry or confused, but eventually you learn to live with it and learn to accept yourself and even eventually love yourself for it. Who else?
Cringe at first and then just not much after that, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, my self-confirmation, even though I had the whole dramatic name thing, everything afterwards that followed was fairly mediocre.
I see. For my being, it was empowering and relieving. Not going it without going into too much detail. When I took that trip to Seattle, the trip to Seattle in mid-March in 2020, when I finally awakened as Lunap, there was one other instance in 2020 when I visited a snowy mountain, where I awakened for my non-human consciousness awakened for just a moment, and then everything went back. I'll discuss that experience more later, though, regardless. I lost my place. Okay, someone else go while I remember.
Aurora or Blue? Or somebody else?
So, for my experience, what I experienced was, how do I word this? So, when Aurora first showed up and entered my body, so to speak, as being the part that was missing, so to speak. I did not know Aurora. I did not understand who or what Aurora was. It was a very fearful experience for me. And needless to say, it was quite traumatizing at first. And but over time, I slowly started warming up to sharing this vessel with her. And as we got closer, really started to appreciate having Aurora here. And after it became revealed that we were two parts instead of being two separate entities, that's when I really started to embrace it, and I haven't really looked back since.
That's beautiful. I like that. And I also think it's, well, even though it's important to remember your past, it's also really important to look forward.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Okay, now I remember what I was going to say. When I awakened in March in early 2020, when I took that trip to Seattle, without going into too much detail, I was escaping from how do I describe this with like a safer work way? Extremely, extremely unpleasant home situation that I was practically escaping from, even for just a week, even though I wouldn't escape that situation completely for another 4 years. It was very relieving to have finally awakened. I feel like I can't really express my draconic self when I'm around my Earth family. So being away from them, being away from a difficult situation, it allows my being to express my draconity more. Overall, my awakening was a very pleasant experience, though my journey of self-discovery is a far less pleasant one.
Yeah. I think we all seen the dark sides before reaching the light.
E.
Anybody else who wants to answer this question before we move on?
Well, for me, it's a little hard to pinpoint exactly since the awakening was like a process for me. I would say that there's almost like several stages to how I felt about it. But I think my general reaction at first was it's almost like in a comical way. I was like, this is fine. Like you know the meme where it says this is fine and everything is on fire? That is basically what I felt about it. For the longest time. And I just let it happen. Didn't really condemn it or anything. But I just noticed like I'm starting to get really comfortable in scales. And at a later point, did I really become happy with it instead of it being a weird thing? Where it almost felt like it broadened almost my set of emotions I can have. Like more pain than I ever felt as, before my awakening, but also many more good things like affection and love and connections with others that just couldn't feel before. So that's how I would describe reacting to my Draconic.
Yeah, understandable.
Ryu. The squeaky door opening in the background of Blue's microphone.
That was my chair.
Oh, well, thank you either way for your answer, Blue. Anybody else who wants to elaborate on this question? Otherwise, we move on. We're running out of time, people.
Wah!
So many Dirks, so little time.
Wah. I think we're good to move on to the next question. I'm not getting any stage requests.
Yeah. All right, last question, at least last question of the serious ones, and then we'll move on to the clickbaity ones that I tricked you into joining this panel for. Have you always identified as a dragon, or have your feelings evolved over time from a different creature, or the other way maybe? I mean, we're not all purely dragons here, we're also draconic adjacent, so maybe you felt dragon at first, and then it turned out to be something else.
Raises claw.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it evolved over time, definitely. I always knew from the start that, yes, it's a dragon, like full-on, stereotypical, six-limbed dragon. But even then, it took me a while to really warm up to the feeling or to the knowledge to identify as one. So, yeah, it's not much to say there. Who else?
Understandable. I talked about this earlier, though. I went from believing that I was just Lunat to recognizing that I'm actually like a draconic werewolf. It's a fragment of her. Narok,
Nice.
the doingus boingus long-snouted wolf.
And did those fragments differentiate at first?
What do you mean?
Well, were they because they were fragments of a larger body, so to say? Was that body or that being, was that something else at first?
Yeah, originally Lunat was just Lunat. And then she started to split her essence into different places to peer through mortal bodies in the pursuit of gathering knowledge and being curious about the mortal experience. And I'm just one of her experiments, essentially.
Well, we're happy to have you here as an experiment, Lunat.
Yee.
Who else?
Fun little experiment.
Oh my god. No. Jesus. Sorry. Something happened to my
It's fine.
keyboard.
Seppi, are you okay?
No, the birds are dancing at my keyboard, and
Oh
my
God.
God. And the chat's going crazy. God damn it.
The Borbs.
Hear them in the background.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
They might have typed something.
Love it.
Aurora. Let me hear it.
So, this was actually pretty interesting for me as well. So when I first experienced my Draconic, I actually didn't have an idea of what form I was. At first, I just assumed your stereotypical six-limbed dragon, but there were some inconsistencies that I noticed over time. First, I never ever felt phantom wings on my back, not once. Not in the sense that I do now, anyway. Two, I actually tried drawing out what my dragon self would look like, and it went through so many iterations and colors. It got to the point where I got frustrated and decided that I was gonna try to design something that I enjoyed looking at, as opposed to what actually was me. And for a few years, I just rolled with that through the furry community. But eventually, the urge to explore myself came back. And I would still explore by doing regular shifts and stuff like that. A couple of years ago, I think it was back in, I want to say 2021, friends suggested that I well, you've been trying to be a Western dragon this whole time and it just hasn't been working. Have you tried doing an Eastern dragon or a different kind of dragon? And that's when I realized there were other options. So I experimented with Eastern dragons at first. A lot more successful because it matched up with my limbs a lot better. But then I played Golden Treasure the Great Green. And that game impacted me so deeply that I was like, I'm a wyvern. And I was like, wait, no, I'm just going through a game fad where I try to shift into the thing that I just played. So I waited for an entire year and it did not budge a single bit. And at that point, I had to admit that my form is a two-winged, two-legged creature instead of an Eastern dragon or a classic Western dragon. And that's where I am today, still working out their details. Like literally just today, I realized that my dragon may have fur instead of scales. So.
Oh, that's cool that you found that out. I mean, that's what Summit is all about. Meeting new dragons and finding things out about yourself.
For sure.
That is true.
Never forget the reason for the season.
Dirks are the reason.
Altonox says it's quail. Quail is the reason for the season of the summit.
I can't argue that. It's quail.
It's quail. I have quail.
Zeppi, where's Pepper?
Pepper's right over here.
Where's Pepper, the unholy quail?
She's here. She's got a girlfriend now.
Yay.
Her name is Puddle.
Quail love, as Altonox would say.
Exactly. They were in panel 5, I believe. For discussing stuff. It's
okay. Who else wants to add to this?
I mean, mine is relatively quick. Basically, when I awakened, it was basically in response to, well, many things. But one of the things was I was also role-playing as a dragon on a forum at the time, and I noticed I really got into it. But yeah, my dragon really never changed. Maybe I found out some more details. Maybe I went on a different path, only to discover like, wait, no, it's actually the original idea after all. But it kind of always stayed the same. It's actually way more interesting if you look before my awakening, though I did not really consider it part of my identity. Whenever I went to bed, basically, I did kind of always imagine myself as something non-human. It could be a bird or a robot or anything really. And in the months, perhaps years leading up to my awakening, those things did start to become more draconic, and it even got a little awkward there, where there was a time where I even imagined myself as Bowser, the turtle thing from the Mario games, specifically because the feeling of weight on my back felt amazing. But yeah, that's where evolution had been, but not so much after my awakening. It really stayed the same, which is kind of boring, but yeah, it's the way it is.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else who wants to add to this question?
No. No.
Seppi, what are you doing?
She speaks to the birds.
Yeah. It's always the birds.
You went somewhere she wasn't supposed to be.
Burp. Okay. Well, with those 4 questions out of the way, I'm going to introduce you with one of the questions that are more playful. And they are playing heavily into the stereotypical dragon, so keep that in mind. So the first question is, if you could hoard anything besides gold, what would it be and why?
Altanok knows the answer to that question.
Quill! For myself, this is really bad. I haven't actually thought about it. What would I hoard? I don't know. Not something I can say in here because I'm always in the dungeon. I'll keep it. I keep it at that.
I mean, the thing I want to hoard is other dragons, but they keep getting away every time.
Oh no!
Yeah, I try to place them on the shelf, but then they just don't stay there. Anyways, jokes aside, the thing I do hoard in real life do tend to be movies, games, and books. So I guess I would do that. Maybe I treasure ancient knowledge, so maybe that explains that. And I mean, a dragon, at least my version of a dragon, I guess, lives for a very long time. So I guess hoarding knowledge seems like, through books, seems like a good thing to hoard.
Yeah, understandable. I hoard all sorts of things. Currently, I'm hoarding feathers, though. Altanok is very proud.
Of which bird?
I think it's interesting that you say knowledge from before, because I'm not entirely sure why dragons have the compulsory need to hoard to begin with, like why that seems to be a thing for many. I don't understand, but it's interesting. And for me right now, I mean, I don't give in to any instinct specifically to hoard specific objects. I do get a lot of crystals because I do follow a lot of metaphysical properties and things of that nature. And obviously I hoard money because I would like to live. But for me, I guess that's not like an object and something that I currently do. That has always been important to me ever since I was like a baby. I've always wanted to know things. I've always wanted to learn why and how. It's important that I have knowledge of anything and everything. I even like seeking out knowledge of stuff that people don't want to know. That's my favorite stuff. I love to learn about things that keep people awake at night. Things
The
that
forbidden
would
fruit.
everything. I would eat the forbidden fruit if I could. I mean, knowledge is the most important thing in the world to collect and to have, especially if it's knowledge that unnerves people. There are things that I know that I don't think everybody could handle. So it's, to me, that will always be like my number one pursuit, is to make sure that I'm completely full of knowledge of anything and everything.
Yeah,
I,
understandable.
I have been working on like a fantasy story of my own, and of course that has its own version of dragons, and those do tend to hoard as well. And for myself, I kind of had to come up with a reason as to why. And in the story, the dragons are immortal, and I went with the idea that dragons tend to hoard because they live a really long time, but they need something to kind of organize all their memories and knowledge. And the things they hoard is kind of like a physical representation of that helps them remember things. Almost like pictures for us, basically. That's the idea I went with.
Understandable.
Anyway, it actually helps me because my memory is terrible and it's getting worse. But objects
no.
I always remember where I got an object. I don't know. I have a lot of stuff, but no matter what I have, I can tell you where it's from, why I have it, and where I got it.
Oh, that's fair. Lunath doesn't actually hoard things. She just has very vast, organized collections. Though, if she did anything close to hoarding, it would be knowledge. Lunath's pursuit of knowledge is why I'm even here it's why I'm even here upon this earth. So, it's why I created the Draconic Summit. It's just pretty much every project I do, pretty much everything I research, it's all driven by Lunath's desire for knowledge. So, thank that weird celestial being for the summit.
Lunath just Lunath basically just collects communities.
Yeah.
So it's interesting for me because for me, hoarding is less about the objects themselves and more of the fact that I am the one protecting them and having something to protect. It's about the protective instincts, not the getting and the having. Which it's kind of funny because sometimes, as this is gonna sound so weird, but I feel like sometimes I almost like people, like these are my people, and they are my responsibility in some way, and it's not necessarily like a hoard per se, but there's still I don't know, it's almost less it's almost like just being weirdly territorial about it. It's hard to explain, but I think that me being a domestic species might also have something to do with that. Like a sheepdog with a herd, but also the herd is in a different position, and it's hard to explain. But does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it does.
Yee.
Okay. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up with. We can do one more.
Size of my Steam library.
Oh yeah.
I just checked it. It's actually a funny number right now. 666 games.
Nice. Don't ever change it.
It'll probably change very soon. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
I mean that's why it's a hoard, to increase.
I mean, you probably wouldn't know how many accounts I have in my password vault. It's currently at 636, so maybe that's also a thing I hoard.
A dragon hoard of passwords. Amazing.
Yes. Knowledge.
Can we do one more? Yeah, we can do one more question. I'm just gonna do one more question. Nobody can stop me.
Understandable.
You have no power here, Lunath.
What?
This is my panel.
Oh no.
Oh, I almost escaped too.
exactly. Final question, everybody. What
Wee.
is your dream lair like? Is it a mountain cave, a hidden forest, or a magical floating island? I'm just
Snowy
gonna
mountain
Well, that's my answer.
with lean beans.
That sounds great, actually.
Oh yeah.
The top of a mountain with snow.
If I were
Great
to
view.
If I were to get really goofily specific, though, it would be a mountain in summer with lingering snow and caterpillars and snails and slugs and butterflies and moths. And I would have a ton of shiny stuff. And then I'd have tea parties with all the lean beans. And then I'd have my books. And then I'd be reading to the lean beans as if they could understand my being. That's my dream lair.
The visual in my head right now is just perfect.
And I think we all know what Altanok's dream lair is.
Quill.
Dark.
Quill.
Dark heavy metal castle with electric guitars everywhere and quail flying around the skulls of his enemies and the quail perching on them.
Awesome. Amazing. Anybody else?
That question kind of came out of left field for me. I haven't really thought about what the ideal layer for me would be exactly. Are we talking from a dragon perspective, or are we just talking from our entire being here?
You can choose. It's a free question. Just whatever seems right for you. What place would you like to be in?
I'd probably go back to that spot I found myself in the meditation. There is a big flower field, a flower meadow, and there was a mountain overlooking it.
That sounds really pretty.
Yee.
Also surprisingly soft.
Ooh.
I like soft things. Actually, you know what? I'd probably fill that layer out with plushies. I wouldn't care about gold. I just want stuffed animals.
Fair enough.
Anybody else? Nobody. I mean, chat is really busy, and I love reading the answers. Well,
Oh, same.
Then we're just gonna conclude it right here and now. I want to thank you all for the first Bring Your Own Dragon. Bring yourself. And hopefully to the next one. I have a lot more questions that are silly and funny, like these two that are just tying into stereotypical dragon stuff. Well, no more questions. Time's up. I'm sorry. But I do want to say I love seeing how much this community is coming together over questions like this. It's really nice to see. You're all amazing. Or to quote the great Keanu Reeves, you're breathtaking.
Wow.
Thank you all for attending, and I'll hopefully see you next time at the next Bring Your Own Dragon.
Yeah, thank you for hosting this panel.
No problem. And cut. Stop the recording.
We'll be headed to the voice channel.
Yes.
And the Draconic text all the way at the bottom. So go ahead and make yourselves over there if you'd like to continue discussing. I think the next panel's at 6 EST.
Yeah, it's in 50 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you there.
Okay.